I returned from a business trip and found out my wife left our daughter and cheated on me with a random guy in a hotel. My wife and I have been together for almost 9 years. We have a daughter together. I got consumed with my schooling, doctoral degree in psychology, and pulled away from her during an intense assignment. Before the assignment, communication was lacking. Some guy met her in a department store, saw her looking through shoes for our daughter, and recommended a website for her to go to. He asked for her number to send her the website address. Well, he contacted her and told her everything she desperately wanted to hear. One thing led to another, and they met up a week and a half ago to have sex in a hotel room when I was out of town on a business trip. My massive school assignment backed straight up to going out of town. When I came back, I could tell that she had grown cold from me. She told me that she felt like she and I were just friends, and she told me that she could do everything on her own, and that she was questioning whether she needed me in her life. I responded with giving my wife and daughter lots of attention, caring, affection, and made sure to be there because I know that I hadn't been during the 4 to 5 weeks it took to complete this assignment, one that I was literally working every waking hour and only getting a few hours of sleep at night. 2 mornings ago, I catch her texting the guy. She fessed up but first told me that she wanted to continue to see him, a guy she met 2 months ago. I was crushed. I gave her space in the hopes that she would choose me, because I love my wife. Later that day, she told me that she wanted to be with me. She told the other guy that everything was finished and changed her number. Positive steps. Being trained in psychology, I feel like I am trying to fix it all. I had her listen to an audiobook with me about how to help your spouse heal from your affair. We got through less than half of it, and I have just been an emotional wreck. I have already purchased a couple of books on recovering from an affair, and I feel like she has not taken any initiative in that area. Another thing is that I want to feel close to her. I have fears of abandonment from her and want her to touch me, hold me, and care for me. Last night, I told her that I wanted to cuddle more than anything, and I wanted for her to initiate sex. We have had sex a few times, and it is wonderful when we do. I feel connected with her in those moments. I have brought up couples therapy, her quitting her super stressful job, getting her to listen to the rest of the audiobook on her own, going to therapy individually, spiritual growth, and everything else I could think of that would help us. I feel like she is not making a concerted effort in these areas. She complains that I have not given her enough time. I just love my wife so much and cannot see myself without her. We met and started dating super early in college, and we have built so many dreams together. I feel like I am losing a grip with reality on what is realistic regarding the expectations I have for her. Am I crazy? Should I back off from my intense desire to fix this? I have read that the unfaithful person is supposed to be the healer. Am I trying too hard to heal? Update. I want to be strong for my wife, yet on the other hand, I feel like I am invalidating my emotions. Where is the balance? How and when can I turn to her? Whenever I share with her my feelings of betrayal, she gets mad because of my previous transgressions. Smoking pot about a year ago on several occasions and actually bringing it in our household, confessing my viewing of pornography a year and a half ago, and my pulling so far away from her when school was getting more difficult, which, combined with her super emotionally draining job, made her become an automaton who just went through the motions of her life. She tells me that she then feels conflicted because she feels as though she has no right to be mad about my past because of what she did to me. She has a right to her feelings, and I do too. I feel like I am drowning in my thoughts in the middle of the night. I wake up with flashbacks about the details of what she said she did with him. I wake up feeling betrayed, lonely, and needing a hug. I have the urge to want to ask my wife all these questions about the affair and share with her all my pain. Yet I know that that is not effective right now if my goal is to salvage our marriage. Our marriage is shattered into pieces, and I am the one to have to pull us together and be strong right now. I have to let my wife see that I am a viable mate. This has been a long time coming that she has seen how I have not been there for her. I get to the point at times when I have vices and get hyper-focused on other aspects of my life. I am a seriously driven person who compensates my incessant drive for success with vices at times. My life is always out of balance. If I don't show her how I am the man she fell in love with, a man without vices who was fun and loving, then I feel like she will leave me considering all that she has been through with me. My wife has good character, and an affair was not something she actively pursued. I pushed her to the point to where she had needs that she did not think I could meet. Another man sensed that weakness in her, and like offender and prey, capitalized on it by telling her everything she wanted to hear. He never made her feel like she was getting in over her head. He just validated her emotions unlike I have in the recent past, mirrored back to her all the things that she craved so desperately. I have to have faith that our marriage will work. I have to pull closer to her to get her see that I am going to be there for her, and I am not going to pull away any further. I have to give her freedom of choice here, and I feel like I have nothing to lose if I try to salvage my marriage. My values are stronger to be together as a family unit than my need to feel validated and understood right now. I feel like my mindset is the difference between having our marriage fail and salvaging our marriage. If I pull away on my own to work on me, then we lose us. I will heal in a different way if I do it on my own. I have to pull away from what is right or common in a typical affair situation and do what is effective and according to my values. This is the hardest thing I have ever gone through in my entire life. I have to recognize what my values are and what my goals are for our family. I see us rebuilding into something even stronger and better. I am not a victim. I am a survivor. I am broken. I can be healed. A family that heals together stays together. I must heal with my wife. Love is patient. Love is kind. It does not envy. It does not boast. It is not proud. It does not dishonor other. It is not self-seeking. It is not easily angered. It keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices in the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. Love never fails. I love my wife. Update. My wife continues to hide that she is seeing and talking to this guy. I want to show her my love for her and stay around. I have truly forgiven her and see why she did it. I also told her that I will have to trust her because I want her to be able to choose me without any guilt. We have a 2.5-year-old daughter together. I want to show her that I can be her man. She is sneaking to text him and call him and telling me that she is being honest with me. Will my love for her win out? She is a good person with a good heart, but she is ripping mine to shreds right now. How can I get her to choose me? Is there anyone who has competed and won? We have committed to allowing 3 months before we make any decisions. Update. Tonight I sleep alone in my own apartment. I have never lived alone. The freedom is exciting and overwhelming. For those who will look at my older posts to get more of the background information, she wanted to stay with him. We were together for 9 years. It sucks. It's not what I wanted for my life, but I love my new apartment. I love my freedom. Yet I have these moments of intense sadness and loneliness. I have been eating healthy, exercising, scheduling activities with friends, taking medication, seeing a therapist, and staying away from other women for now. I know I can make it through this, but any advice from people who have made it past this point is much appreciated. I found my wife with her affair partner in our bed. This is a throwaway for the obvious reason. I've been reading in here for several days trying to wrap my head around the craziness that is my life. Last week, I was completely and utterly happy. Head over, heels in love with my fiancé. We've been together for years. We found out in May she was pregnant. Life didn't feel like it could get any better. I'm an essential worker and still unfortunately have to travel from time to time for my job. I have been trying to cut down on plane travel and will drive if able. Last week, I was scheduled to be gone all week, but ended up being able to leave several days ahead of time, but wanted to surprise my fiancé. It was an 8-hour drive, but ended up being close to 14 because of traffic and poor timing on my part. I get home around 10:30 p.m. and find her and a coworker in our bed together. She's an assistant producer at a local news station, and he's one of the actors. She immediately tries to defuse the situation and says it's not what I think it is and not to jump to conclusions. He jumps up and puts his clothes on and leaves. I was so angry I was seeing stars. She tries to talk to me about it, but I don't want to hear it. I leave and call a buddy and have been staying with him for the past 6 days. I spoke to her on the phone yesterday and she told me it was a one-time thing and she feels like the passion has been missing in our relationship, which I don't agree with at all. I think she was trying to justify the cheating and gaslight me. I'm so angry and she won't stop harassing me. I don't know what to do. We're going to be parents and I don't want anything to do with her, but I'm stuck with her for the next 18 years, minimum. She hasn't even apologized. She just keeps trying to justify her actions. Sorry if this is all over the place. My brain is all over the place. Just needed to get it out, and some advice would be great. Update. Last week I was completely and utterly happy. Head over heels in love with my fiancé. We've been together for years. We found out in May she was pregnant. Life didn't feel like it could get any better. I'm an essential worker and still unfortunately have to travel from time to time for my job. I have been trying to cut down on plane travel and will drive if able. Last week I was scheduled to be gone all week, but ended up being able to leave several days ahead of time, but wanted to surprise my fiancé. It was an 8-hour drive, but ended up being close to 14 because of traffic and poor timing on my part. I get home around 10:30 p.m. and find her and a coworker in our bed together having sex. She's an assistant producer at a local news station, and he's one of the anchors. She immediately tries to defuse the situation and says it's not what I think it is and not to jump to conclusions. He jumps up and puts his clothes on and leaves. I was so angry I was seeing stars. She tries to talk to me about it, but I don't want to hear it. I leave and call a buddy and have been staying with him for the past 6 days. I spoke to her on the phone yesterday, and she told me it was a one-time thing and she feels like the passion has been missing in our relationship, which I don't agree with at all. I think she was trying to justify the cheating and gaslight me. I'm so angry and she won't stop harassing me. I don't know what to do. We're going to be parents and I don't want anything to do with her, but I'm stuck with her for the next 18 years. Minimum? She hasn't even apologized. She just keeps trying to justify her actions. Update. So sorry for taking so long to update. This week has been hellish. Met with my friend's lawyer, family law buddy early last week. He contacted her and threatened to go public about their affair, so she was more forthcoming with information. She told him they had been sleeping together for over a year. She's 85% sure the baby is mine because they never have unprotected sex, but doesn't want to have a DNA test until the baby is born. Lawyer believes the baby is the other guy based on this comment. I haven't fully moved out yet, just moved a lot of my clothes into my buddy's place. The lawyer thinks I should sell the house and not let her buy me out because he doesn't think she has the funds and would BS me. Also sorry if I didn't answer you. I got a ton of messages here and in DMs. I tried to answer any much as I could. If you have any other questions, I'll be on for a bit. Final update. I'm still blown away by the number of people checking up on me both in this thread and via DM. I really appreciate the support and love during this trying time. On to what you're here for. We did multiple DNA tests. The baby is mine. He was born a few weeks ago and is by far the greatest thing to happen to me. He makes all this mess worth it. His mother and I are not together. I strictly speak to her about the baby, and that is all. House is sold. Closing is 3/1, but we do not need to be there. Still living with my buddy, hoping to buy a new home in the next few months for my son and I. I did not go public with the affair out of respect for our son. Her employers know and she was terminated. He is still working there. I'm not sure what their relationship consists of and I don't care. I'm guessing he bolted.
Alright, everyone's presentations are done. Nick, the manager, said as he tried to move the discussion forward. Excuse me, I haven't. I recently found out something. Nick interrupted me and began to speak. There's apparently someone in this department who didn't graduate high school and is just a part-timer. Meetings should be for employees only. Absolutely right. His lackey, Mike, of course, agreed with Nick. I'm leaving. After leaving the meeting room, I started to shut down my computer. I noticed that an email had arrived, not in my personal inbox, but in the company's shared email. Thinking, there's no point in speaking up, no one will listen, I went home quietly. The next day, I heard a commotion from Nick's desk. He was staring at his computer screen, his face pale. "Nick, is something wrong?" Mike looked at the screen with him. And he turned even paler than Nick. Why is he so angry? Knowing the reason for Mike's distress, I thought to myself, serves them right. My name is Adam. My mother passed away when I was in the 9th grade, and I was raised by my father. Well, you could hardly call it being raised. After my mother passed, my father changed. He drowned his sorrows in alcohol, and though he still went to work, he squandered our living expenses on horse racing. Because of that, I had to start working part-time as soon as I entered high school. Every month, I went to the convenience store with bills in hand that couldn't be auto-deducted from my father's account. Even though I endured it because I didn't want to be alone, I reached my limit in my second year of high school and dropped out. I found a live-in job at a distant inn. Thank you for everything. The day I left home, my father, still staring at the TV, spoke. Take care. That was our last conversation. Back then, 18 wasn't the age of majority, so I needed my father's permission to work, and I couldn't hide my place of employment. Yet, my father never visited me even once. I kept working just to survive, and before I knew it, I was 42. Years of hard work paid off, and I was transferred to the headquarters. I was thrilled to be recognized by the company, as I thought I'd be working in the field until retirement due to my lack of formal education. Listen up. Our work can change the future of our employees. Don't drag us down. On my first day after the transfer, Nick, dressed in an expensive suit, spoke sternly. There was a reason for this. Our inn was located in a prominent tourist destination, known so well that everyone in the state could sing its commercial jingle. At its peak, we had 5 locations within the state. But that was long ago. Due to financial difficulties and aging facilities, only the place where I had worked for many years and the original establishment remained. I was prepared to lose my job anytime, but now there was a glimmer of hope. With the rise of social media, the tourist area where the inn was located started gaining attention again. Depending on how hard the sales department, where I was transferred, worked, we could either thrive or be forced to give up this prime location to the new hotel chains continuously popping up. For Nick, who had switched careers from another industry to strengthen our sales, this was a battle he couldn't afford to lose. I understood why he had to be strict. I will do my best. Nick sneered at my enthusiastic declaration. Did you not hear what I said? I'm sorry. I thought I was listening carefully. Out of habit from years of customer service, I apologized reflexively, though I had no idea what had offended him. Someone was watching me with a smirk. In this department, there are those who are expected to excel and those who have been shoved here because they have nowhere else to go. You are the latter. It was Mike, the section chief. He's 7 years younger, at 35. But he was called to headquarters much earlier than I was and had been moving around within the headquarters ever since. I'm not jealous, but I can't accept that he's my boss. Graduating from a prestigious university, he has an unusually high pride and caused many problems as a newbie, making things very difficult for me when I was the front desk leader. When I found out Mike was transferred to the sales department a month before me, I was disheartened. Mike is right. With just a middle school diploma, there's not much you can do. Don't even think about achieving results. As if I didn't exist, Nick remarked, I'm thirsty. Mike eagerly ran to the coffee maker. It seems Mike is Nick's lackey. I regretted being happy about my transfer to headquarters, wishing I had stayed on site forever. Send a direct mail to every company on this list by the end of the day. Nick only assigned me tasks that even a new graduate could handle. What? There are over 1,000 companies. You want me to send to all of them by today? Yes, if you and your fellow misfits split the work, even those with nowhere else to go should finish by today. I glanced at the employees typing away expressionlessly. They were worn out from customer service, only thinking about leaving on time, or were women reassigned after having children, with zero motivation for work. Even Sam, a new graduate from the same university as Mike, who was supposed to be among the expected achievers, had no enthusiasm for the job, having joined the company wanting to do customer service. I don't care what they say, I plan to quit anytime, he said. Only Nick and Mike were highly motivated, making all the decisions between the two of them. I originally only wanted to work at the inn to survive and had no particular attachment to this job. I swallowed my words, thinking I had no right to reprimand them. About a month after the transfer, Nick told us with a frustrated look. To commemorate the 50th anniversary, we've decided to create a plan exclusive for one group per day. Originally, Mike and I were supposed to come up with it, but our president, Mr. Thompson, insists on hearing everyone's opinions. So, you all get a chance. As Nick explained, Mike began handing out prints. Make sure not to embarrass Nick. If your ideas are half-baked, you'll have to redo them. It seemed that they had printed his handwritten notes by Mr. Thompson, which included several questions and a section for free responses. It made sense why Nick had to seek our input, given that all responses had to be submitted to Mr. Thompson. We were given a week to think about it, and a meeting was scheduled to compile our ideas. My plan is to let guests enjoy both the old and modern America. Nick began the presentations. Guests would watch a master confectioner at a nearby traditional sweet shop make sweets in front of them. The welcome drink would be premium tea in a bottle. Nick's plan was certainly attractive. After his presentation, Nick called on us to present in the order we were seated. Just as I stood up for my turn. All right, everyone's presentations are done. Excuse me, I haven't. I recently found out something. Nick interrupted me. There's someone in this department who didn't graduate high school and is just a part-timer. He was likely talking about me. I joined the company as a part-timer and was made a full-time employee when I turned 20. That was 20 years ago, so Nick and Mike probably had no chance to know until recently. Meetings should be for employees only. Absolutely right. After that, Nick kept creating opportunities to solicit everyone's opinions, purposefully excluding me from speaking. The meeting unexpectedly heated up and went past the scheduled end time. A few people asked to leave, and the discussion continued with the remaining few. Still here? Normally, you'd leave in that situation. Though I had no attachment to the job initially, hearing kind words from customers made me want to make them happier. For someone like me, with nowhere to go, the inn was my home and customer service was my life. I felt pathetic about my current self. I'm leaving. I left the conference room and started shutting down my computer. I noticed an email had arrived, not in my personal inbox, but in the company's shared email. Thinking no one would listen to what I had to say anyway, I quietly went home. The next day, while preparing the DM as instructed, I heard a commotion from Nick's desk. In his haste to stand up, he hit his knee on the desk. He stared at his computer screen, his face pale. Nick! What's wrong? Mike, thinking he should be the first to rush over, approached Nick while still wearing his coat. He peered at the screen with Nick. And he turned even paler than Nick. Why is he so angry? Who is responsible for this company? Nick, more irritated than ever, asked, and Mike answered without checking. Probably Sam. Sam wasn't there because he was attending a morning training session for new hires. Nick gave up on getting angry and returned his gaze to the screen. They were looking at an email that arrived right after the end of the working day yesterday. Apparently, no one, including me, had checked it before leaving. The email was from a large company that used us for their annual employee trips. The president and executives of that company also frequently used our services personally. President of the company, Mr. Mason himself, had declared that neither he nor his company would ever use our services again. Well, some companies cancel their employee trips or stop using our services due to financial struggles. Let's just move on. Mike kept wiping the sweat from his forehead with a handkerchief. Knowing why Mike was so agitated, I quietly watched their interaction. Do you know how much revenue we get from that company? We can find other guests to fill the rooms, but we'll lose the banquet costs, gift shop revenue, rental car fees, and more. Moreover, the gifts were supposed to be prepared by the traditional confectionery shop involved in Nick's proposed plan. If it's known that we incurred such a huge loss at this critical time, Nick's position in the company would be jeopardized. Nick took a deep breath, seemingly trying to calm himself. All right, Mike. Go to New York right now and apologize to Mr. Mason. What? You're coming with me, right? I have urgent work to do. I trust you, which is why I'm entrusting this to you. Please. Mike, believing Nick's sincerity, agreed with a determined look on his face, saying, yes. That's Nick for you. Even if Mike went to apologize, Nick would shift all the blame onto him if the client didn't change their mind. Well, it was Mike's fault to begin with, so it served him right. About 3 hours later, Sam answered a call from somewhere and repeatedly apologized, saying, I'm very sorry. Everyone watched to see what was happening. After ending the call, he informed Nick with a weary tone. When Mike arrived at the client's company, he only made things worse, further infuriating Mr. Mason. He was demanding, get his boss here immediately. It was no wonder Sam was exhausted, dealing with such a call right after returning from training. What is that idiot doing? All right, Adam, you're coming with me. If sacrificing Mike didn't work, then I must be next. Normally, I'd want to refuse at all costs, but I saw an opportunity in this situation. If I can be of assistance, I'd be happy to join you. I obediently followed Nick, and we flew to New York. When we introduced ourselves at the reception, it became clear how serious the situation was, as the receptionist personally escorted us to the president's office. Angry voices leaked through the door, making both Nick and me uneasy. Excuse me. I'm Nick, the supervisor. I understand my subordinate has caused you trouble, and I deeply apologize. Nick, with his experience in the corporate world, knew enough to offer an apology before excuses. However, his customer service skills left much to be desired. I sighed as I saw Mike trembling like a small dog in the corner of the room. What kind of training are you giving your subordinates? Mr. Mason glared at Nick with a red face. The intensity of his gaze made even Nick take a step back. Regrettably, I joined this company only 2 years ago and was unaware of Mike's issues. I should have identified his shortcomings sooner. Indeed. I should have realized sooner. No sensible person would come to apologize and then give a lengthy presentation on the drawbacks of not using their in. Nick froze, his mouth slightly open. Suspecting the worst, I picked up the documents that had fallen to the floor. It seemed Mike hastily prepared these documents on the plane, listing the disadvantages. Disadvantage 1: if you change the venue for the company trip, employees might suspect it's for cost-cutting reasons, leading to a negative impression. Reading it aloud half-jokingly, Nick snatched the papers from my hand and checked the contents with a furious expression. Among the stack of documents was a receipt from a nearby convenience store's copy machine. I felt a pang of dread, hoping he hadn't shown the receipt as well. What do you think he said when I asked what kind of nerve he had to do this? I'm very sorry. Faced with the dire situation, Nick must have thought there was nothing left to do but apologize. In a voice smaller than I'd ever heard from him, he uttered words of apology. He said, I'm a Harvard graduate. I don't believe I said anything wrong. Mike! What have you done? Forgetting his plan to pin the blame on Mike, Nick yelled loudly, even in front of Mr. Mason. I didn't do anything wrong. You're still saying that? Look at him. Mike pointed at me with a shaking hand. I was assigned to headquarters in my 20s and now I'm a section chief. This guy only made it to headquarters at 42. Everything I've done proves I was right. So why are we losing the contract? Having said his piece, Mike collapsed to the floor. Of course. You were sent there because you had nowhere else to go. Mike never expected to hear such words from someone he looked down upon. He lunged at me, and Nick hurriedly stepped in to stop him. Mr. Thompson told me Mike is a quick thinker, and to take good care of him. There's no way he was pushed aside. Don't make things worse here. He didn't say quick thinker, he said only quick-witted, didn't he? I don't remember that part. I recalled the many troubles Mike caused when he was a newbie. When Mike was on the front line, his pride was so high that he never apologized to customers. Customer service, especially in our job, doesn't work alone. It brings both good and bad situations. If the front staff or housekeepers made mistakes, or the cleaning company didn't properly clean a room, one had to apologize to the customers regardless of personal fault. Mike, in such situations, would never apologize, insisting he wasn't at fault. This often angered customers, and as the front desk leader, I frequently had to apologize on his behalf. He caused complaints and disrupted operations, which is why he was quickly moved to headquarters. In departments where he didn't interact directly with customers, his quick thinking was beneficial and things went well. But it seemed his flaws were starting to show. Corporate reservations are supposed to be entered into the system by the sales representative. But a quick check yesterday revealed that more than 10 items were missing from the client's reservation. The handover document clearly stated what needed to be prepared. Why didn't you enter it into the system? Why do we have to give them special treatment? Filling rooms near the banquet hall, setting up all the food in advance. Specifying the brand of wine, they're too demanding. No wonder he always angered customers, I thought, feeling a headache coming on. Grouping them in rooms near the banquet hall is for our benefit too. It makes it easier for the staff to set up beds and serve breakfast since everyone's schedule is synchronized. As for the other requests, Mr. Mason suggested them to lighten our load. I didn't know that. Nick finally seemed to realize that Mike was the one who had angered the client. What did you say to them? I just told them we wouldn't give them special treatment anymore. We shouldn't waste effort on things that don't bring in money. I was utterly exasperated at his lack of understanding of customer service. Of course, we shouldn't comply with unreasonable demands. But carrying over successful practices from past stays makes customers feel remembered and enhances their experience. Good memories encourage repeat visits. That's part of our job. I looked down at Mike, who was sitting on the floor. In our job, nothing is a waste. Mr. Thompson likely moved you to the sales department, hoping you'd finally understand this. How do you think he feels now that you failed to meet his expectations? Mike, tears in his eyes, fled the president's office. I was amazed he still hadn't apologized. You have it tough, Adam. It's okay, we're all employees of the same company. I deeply apologize for this disrespectful incident. Especially after all the care you've shown us. If it weren't for you, Adam, I really would have stopped staying here. When I heard you were moving to the sales department, I was willing to reconsider if you handled it. Seeing us talk so amicably, Nick's face contorted. Do you two know each other? Adam's service is excellent. I always requested him specifically. Normally, we don't accept specific staff requests, but we made an exception for Mr. Mason, adjusting my shifts accordingly. He had personally stayed at our hotel just before my transfer, and during casual conversation, I mentioned, I'm moving to the sales department soon. If I hadn't told him then, things could have been much worse. Please continue to take care of us. I look forward to it. On the return flight, Nick awkwardly offered me a can of beer. It's still working hours. Of course, I had no intention of forgiving him for a single beer. Nick might try to pin everything on Mike and avoid any consequences. While pondering this, a startling fact came to light. Nick, the tea bottles for the plan have arrived. I handed Nick a bottle labeled with our inn's name. They look good. What are you talking about? These are plastic bottles. I had assumed we would use the trendy, high-end bottling tea. But what arrived were ordinary plastic bottles of tea with customized labels. The only unique aspect was the label, which had the inn's name, making it look customized. Upon further investigation, I discovered that a substantial amount of money was set to be paid to the tea company. It was priced like bottling tea. Does this plastic bottle really cost $100 each? The tea inside is specially blended for us. The extra cost is for that. Wouldn't it be better to use another tea company? Or is there a specific reason we must use this one? As Nick continued to make excuses, I showed him a printed email. I informed the tea company's president, Mr. Mitchell, that we discovered irregular payments and he confessed. He said you two were high school classmates and planned to split the extra money. That idiot. Why did he confess? That's not important. You should worry about yourself, this could turn into a police matter. Opening the bottle cap, I suggested. How about calming down with this tea? It supposedly has a relaxing effect. Nick drank the tea frantically. In the following days, decisions were made about their fates. Mike was reassigned to the General Affairs Department, with no chance of transfer or promotion, as per Mr. Thompson's orders. As for Nick, since the payment to the tea company hadn't yet been made, he narrowly avoided legal trouble. Instead, he was encouraged to leave the company, and to avoid further complications, Nick submitted his resignation. Rumor has it that connections between HR departments have made it difficult for him to find new employment. Even though it was good to have those two gone, something unexpected happened in the sales department. Everyone became motivated and united in refining the 50th anniversary plan. In the end, my plan was adopted. We collaborated with the Tourist Information Center to provide personalized guides. The plan, tailored to the number of guests, was truly special for the 50th anniversary. Hey, is Adam's family coming to stay? I immediately booked that special plan for my family. Sam noticed it on the reservation list and quickly picked up on it. Yes, I'm inviting my father. That's great. I might invite my parents too. I lacked the courage to face my father just as Adam. But here, with the confidence Mr. Mason praised, I felt ready. The 50th anniversary plan was a perfect opportunity to reconnect with my father. I hoped to bring back the days when we could laugh together as we once did.